Welcome to another episode, and this one's going to be foam rolling and massage guns and stretching and flexibility and performance, how it affects performance.
I was going to touch on how foam rolling, self-massage techniques, massage guns and stretching effects.
Yeah, pretty much kind of like a self-help physiotherapy. Could you call this self-help?
Yeah, that sounds about right. How they affect recovery, performance, and range of motion, because kind of that's what they're designed to do as well.
I mean, let's be honest. How many of you listening actually have a foam roll at home and a tennis ball? And
The majority of people,
or maybe a lot of people actually have the massage guns now as well. You can buy pretty cheap ones on Amazon.
Yeah. My first one I brought off eBay and it broke about a week later.
We can maybe talk about the differences between this. How much is this one? Like 300 quid?
Yeah, I mean, it was brought as a present, so the Ferragun.
I wonder if there's any difference between this one and like a 50 quid one from Amazon.
Well, this one's lasted me for a while. The one I brought from China broke.
Yeah. Well, anyway, what I'm interested in is there any evidence behind doing foam rolling for actually treating any pain or issues, musculoskeletal issues? Straight in.
Okay. So you're asking, is there any evidence for it for helping with people who are in a bit of pain?
Yes.
I mean, I don't think it's even been studied to the fact that we bring people in who've got a certain, musculoskeletal disease, and we get them to foam roll and test if that sort of takes away the pain. I don't think that's been tested. But we do know also at least some of the reasoning behind our beliefs how foam rolling works is on changing pain perception. So, for some people, they may feel a little bit of pain, ache, niggle, whatever that may be, and they sort of foam roll that area, and they, feel better.
So what does it actually do then? Does it numb the pain a bit? Because there's you can't really do any structural change with just foam rolling or massage.
I'd hope not. The underlying mechanisms aren't really fully understood, but the change in the way. Well, you're applying a certain sensation to a painful sensation, whether that be heat, cold, in this case, pressure, and that can alter the way that pain is being received. So it's through that sort of mechanisms. I don't really know what the hell's going off. Okay, I don't think many people know what the hell is going off at this stage, but we know physiologically it's changing something in there. I think for most of these, it will be short-lived, possibly, or it will just help somebody ease a sort of pain symptoms. But in that case, it probably wasn't anything to sort of be really worried about in the first place. But for someone who has an episode of pain, it's been around for a while, it's quite disabling, then it's probably not going to help too much other than just help alleviate some of their pain.
Right.
Did that answer the question?
Yes. So obviously you've got all of these tools here, so you must be using it with your patients. So could you maybe say brief pros and cons of these? And when would you use it?
I'm going to let you in on a little secret. I've been practicing 3 years and I've never got anybody to foam roll. I use this as a standing pike stretch. Just so people can sort of hold on to,
Okay, so that's the foam roller we're talking about. That's the foam roller.
Yeah.
For those who are listening.
The foam roller, I use it for a stretch. So imagine you're standing nice and tall. You bend forward from the waist, keeping the knees straight. I use the foam roller so patients can put their hands on and give themselves a bit of support. I might put a couple of yoga blocks underneath the roller just to raise it up a little bit. That's what I'm using the yoga.
Oh, I never thought about it. Thank you. I might use mine for
There you
that.
go. That's it. That's how I use it for.
What about these then? We got like a tennis ball and let's say cricket ball, we could say.
Lacrosse
or
ball.
Crossball.
Yeah. Obviously, one's very, very firm, one's a bit more squidgy. I use that for people who've got that sort of niggly pain what lies between the shoulder blade and the thoracic spine, The one what's pretty hard to get to, the one what's just a nuisance for most people, can be quite sharp. And these two work very, very well. And the way I sort of give this off is we get the lacrosse ball. Now, again, a lot of people think when we're doing massage, it has to be no pain, no gain, leave you with red marks, bruised, battered. But it's not the case. We don't have to go super, super hard. So I'd use the lacrosse ball if it was on a soft surface. So, for example, my clinic bed. I'd get them lay on my back. I'd pop that lacrosse ball between the surface of the bed and their back, in the fleshy part of the sort of rhomboids, trapezius, between the scapula, the shoulder blade, and the spine. And then I just get them to lay on it and literally breathe. Or we start to move the arm through flexion, abduction, adduction, and that just moves the shoulder blade and just sort of self-massaging the tissues on the back. I use it because, it does get a nice little response from it. It can be a nice sort of massage technique where it does just alleviate or just take that edge off for a little bit. But it is mainly only doing that. It's just a way where we can sort of help in the early stages, just to sort of calm things down or ease things up a little bit for the person. So
we could say that it's not really sorting out the main issue.
No, not at all. I wouldn't say so. If it did miraculously cure somebody, I probably wouldn't put it down to that. I probably, I probably wouldn't class it as an injury or musculoskeletal disorder or disease.
And I'm guessing the same way you would use the massage gun?
Yeah. So,
not sure how that's gonna be picked up on a mic.
Before we go to the Theragun, I tend to use a tennis ball a lot as well if it's on a hard surface. That's all. Same sort of thing with the lacrosse ball.
Yeah.
The Theragun, I use that in clinic. I don't mind using that sort of stuff in clinic. It's not my sort of. It's just part of the puzzle. So if someone is a little bit sore, when I want to do a little bit of soft tissue work, I may do a little bit of hands-on soft tissue work. I may use the sort of the instrument soft tissue assisted tools and also the Theragun, which I think is fine to do so.
Yeah, we actually have these in my gym.
Yeah,
and I've seen some funny instances of people using them.
Put it in funny places.
Not funny places, but I saw a guy. He was on a machine for quad extensions, and so he was doing that for, I don't know, he was very lightweight, and he was probably doing like 20-30 reps while he was massaging his quads at the same time with the Theragun. Yeah. I don't know what he was trying to achieve there.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah.
Yes.
But I use the tennis balls and the lacrosse ball for that scat pain. I use if their pain is, if you just can't get your mind off of it, because it's a good way of just sort of just dampening out the sort of sharpness of the pain for a little bit for them, so it feels nice for them. The Theragun I use on people, we do get a bit of a sort of effect from it. Again, it's not going to be the cure for most people, but in clinic, I don't see no harm in using it, Yeah.
So let's say, okay, so we pretty much covered, let's say, the pain management issue. Is there any evidence behind using these for recovery from training, for example?
We'll be clutching at straws if we said we was. Yeah, I mean, in terms of the evidence and what the research says, it doesn't say it does aid it, but then, there's not really so much evidence saying, it can't. So, I guess that comes down to a personal level. to the person who's doing it and how they feel. Although I did once train heavy back squats to the point where I sort of, got mad DOMs, got the Theragun, took it home, and I Theragunned one side. So I Theragunned my right leg or left leg, or which one it was, and I thought I'd see how I feel when I woke up the next day. And to me, there was a significant difference in right or left, okay?
Wow.
But yeah, I've got DOMs since then, and I've never used it to help me out. So take it as you will.
Yeah.
So I think this case very possibly can help some people ease things up. I wouldn't particularly use it as a recovery tool. I'm not elitist, so I wouldn't probably use it for that.
What about warm up?
What about warm up? Yeah, I mean, you are going to get the benefits of, just getting some blood to the surface, into the muscles. However, it's a very passive intervention. I'd always be biased towards using something more active intervention. So say if I was going to do, for example, some power cleans, I would do some movements what's going to mimic, power cleans. So maybe a little bit, depending on what I'm, again, it'll change. For me, I really just base it on feel. If I'm feeling a bit tired and I'm feeling a bit slow, I will just have a bit more of a warm up and then just mimic the movements I'm going to do for the power clean. Repeat the question again.
If you would use it for warm up.
No, I was going off a massive tangent. No, I wouldn't use it for a warm up, even though some people might enjoy it. It's going to get some blood moving around, okay? It's going to warm things up. But for me, I think we can use better methods, and that is, just full body movements, mimicking what you are about to do in your training.
Yeah.
That was better.
Yeah. I guess we could possibly just summarize this. If you could just briefly say the pros and cons, and maybe should people invest in this stuff, and is there any benefit?
Yeah. Look, I think let's look to sort of foam rolling, in terms of recovery, I don't think it's really going to help much, and that's what the evidence says. In terms of performance, it doesn't really increase performance. But nor does it decrease it. So again, it comes down to a personal level from these two fronts in terms of recovery and performance. Use it, add it in for a little bit. If you feel like you're noticing differences in your training and positive differences, great. If not, get rid of it. You do something else. Me personally, I would choose other methods, to implement instead of the foam roller.
Yeah.
I think when it comes to, a lot of people use it to increase range of motion. Again, it does acutely improve range of motion. Mainly in and around the hips, if you're doing quads, hamstrings. In terms of the calf muscles, not so much actually, for one reason or another. However, there's been no sort of long-term studies in terms of, over 4 weeks, or very limited over 4 week studies to check how chronic or long-term foam rolling affects range of motion. It's a bit conflicting, to be fair. There's some studies that say, these do see significant changes, and there's others what don't. I've read a few of them where, when they're testing at 8 weeks, they'll do a big warm up and then do their foam rolling and then test it, which is obviously going to change things dramatically as well, because it was like a few 10-meter sprints in there, it was a few squats, it was jumping lunges, and a 2-minute bikes, and then foam rolling. So of course all that work is going to change range of motion. So you got to take these with a pinch of salt.
Yeah, this range of motion is very because it's a bit of a tangent there, because then we diving into mobility and flexibility and stuff. I'm guessing it, especially if you're doing movements and using full range of motion, and you're strong in every aspect of that movement, you're gonna naturally have better range of motion. But if you don't have that and you foam roll, it's gonna increase it a little bit because you just rolled it, and it's gonna enhance. I think the good example would be when you roll your serratus anterior, it's gonna increase your shoulder mobility instantly.
I mean, you can. I reckon we should do a test on the thingy. Well, we got this. Take your shoes off. no, trust me. Take your shoes off. We can edit it out if not.
Okay.
Yeah? Take your shoes off. Take a stand. It's going to be a 2-second test.
2-second test. Okay.
All right. So you stand there, right? I want you to now, okay, go into a forward fold. Okay, just go down. Just keep your knees straight. Good. And stand. Okay. Okay, so that felt comfortable-ish?
Yeah.
Yeah? Was that max or?
I mean, I could push more, but
yeah. Okay.
I wasn't pushing.
Good. So what we're going to do is I want you to just take a seat and I want you to just roll the bottom of your foot. We're going to do about 2 minutes on each side, you know?
2 minutes on each side?
Yeah, we'll do 2 minutes on each side. Okay? But to summarise the foam rolling, you know, in terms of the, you know, there is an acute sort of increase in range of motion. Long-term results are a little bit sort of, you know, conflicting. However, when compared to static stretching and different stretching modalities, you know, stretching comes out on top. So if you are using the foam rolling to increase your range of motion and your flexibility, I think there's other ways, or the better ways what we can do it. Okay? And that's through various stretching techniques. In terms of performance, yeah, whatever. I think recovery, yeah, whatever. I think take both of them in your stride. If you trial and error with yourself, if it feels like it's working for you, great. If it's not, ditch it. In terms of warm-up, you know, if you're using it as a warm-up and it feels good for you. I personally wouldn't use it, and I would be focusing more on some full body movements. And probably the same with my recovery. You know, I'd just be focusing on more stuff like
nutrition,
you know, and just all the other things outside of my training.
Cryotherapy.
Yeah, cryotherapy.
No,
you know,
honestly, we should probably do one on that one, because that is just not.
Yeah.
That's
But that's what I would say there. If, you know, focus on other aspects of recovery. Don't put all the emphasis. We've got 30 seconds yet. All the emphasis on the foam roller. Okay. I think that summarises foam rolling up. I didn't want to spend too much time on this because it really doesn't need spending too much time on it.
It's just, I think it's interesting because a lot of people probably using it, or have been told by someone to use it.
Yeah,
I mean, it happened.
And let's switch. I think it's dying out a little bit though. Foam roller. I do think it is dying out a bit. I think people have clicked on and be like, "What the hell?"
I had a lot of, like, pretty much until I've moved to Leeds and worked with the Mofo guy. Every single practitioner recommended me foam rolling. Yeah. Whether it was foam rolling my hip flexors for my hips, or it was the lacrosse ball rolling this. It was always just roll it, go through the pain, 7 out of 10, hold it there, and you know, like, but it would never, like, actually, it would help me at that time, but never would sort anything. And I saw myself throughout the years using it less and less, and now I barely use it.
I mean, interestingly, in people with hip OA, it tends to work very, 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 very well. In people with osteoarthritis, and we know there is a sort of a mismatch of how, or there's an over sensitization of their nervous system. So when they get they're just more responsive to certain stimuli in the pain system. You know, so what's be a little bit painful. But is that just a
pain management?
Well, obviously, it tells us that foam rolling is affecting pain perception in some way, and we know that people with osteoarthritis do have a higher response to certain stimuli, or an increased response to certain stimuli.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So that's about 2 minutes in each side. So I want you to touch your toes now. I want you to see how it feels. Does it feel any different?
Yeah.
Yeah?
It does feel easier.
It feels easier for rolling your foot.
Yeah. That's weird.
So, you know.
I feel tricked.
You know, I've seen this done with just people just like slapping any body part and stuff like that. You know, like a straight leg raise. So you're laying on your back and you keep your leg straight and you lift your leg up. It's like a hamstring stretch, right? And you go to a point where you feel say you go to 90 degrees and you'll feel some tension on there. And then you bring that leg back down, pick a body part, slap the body part, take the leg back up again, and voila, the resistance met before is a lot further on. And these are just hacks, again, the nervous system modulates a lot of this stuff as well. So that's kind of what modulates a lot of this stuff as well. So you're just kind of hacking that. How does it work? I don't know. There's probably someone out there.
I mean, it's definitely a great marketing strategy, pre and post.
That's it.
Pre and post.
Just roll the underfoot.
Client results. Like, look, I rolled someone's feet and they can touch their toes.
I know. Now. So but clearly there's a significant difference, right?
Really, but now my feet hurt. I've rolled too long.
That's it, causing more problems to keep you here.
You're gonna have plantar fasciitis now.
But that's it. I haven't really got much else to add for the foam roller there.
Right. Well, what else did we want to talk about? It was you said flexibility for, stretching before exercise, right?
Yeah. So in terms of what? In terms of should you be stretching before exercise or after?
Yeah. I do have my ideas on this, so I wonder if we're going to meet.
I think we know certain parameters or certain stretching will affect your training outcomes in terms of performance. So, for example, let's put it this way: I don't think it matters if you stretch before or after. Okay, we know it can help a little bit in injury reduction. Okay.
Well, stretching before.
I don't know if it's before or after or just generally. It can help with injury.
But we have to specify what type of stretching, right? Because we have static, dynamic, PNF.
Be static.
Static helps reduce injury.
Yeah, there's been a little bit of research for it.
Oh, really?
Okay.
Okay.
Now, but I don't think it matters if you stretch before or after. If we're stretching before our training session and we're stretching for over 1 minute, then that tends to have or sees a decrease in performance.
Yeah, that's what I've read. Yeah. It makes sense.
Again, for just the normal person like me and you, does it really matter? Probably not. If you're a high-level athlete, then if you're
But you're on I'm a high-level athlete.
Yeah, high-level breakdancer. So I think that's that. But however, the reduction in performance is reversed if you perform a dynamic warm-up after your long bout of stretching.
Yeah, but I think we would have to specify what the performance entails, right? Because I think it highly depends on what sport or what activity you're going to be doing. Because, for example, static stretching, especially in the dance realm, is very common. Like you would see a lot of static stretching before starting the training, and mostly you would see it before and after. I think people are slowly moving more into dynamic stretching because I feel like that's where the evidence is, right? That like dynamic before any workout is probably better than static stretching for longer periods of time. I don't know. I think I've read this kind of thing that essentially if you're doing static stretching, what you telling to your nervous system or muscle is that you're relaxing. If it's longer than a minute, your muscle connections or whatever are pretty much getting ready for relaxation rather than intense exercise. And that's why your performance gets worse. That's what I remember from.
No, I mean I haven't come across that, but maybe I don't know. I think from my understanding is the strength and power is reduced on the long bouts of static stretching, which is obviously reversed through dynamic sort of dynamic warm up. However, most people are probably going to do a long bout of stretching that may sort of like slowly build into whatever they're going to be doing. So would that be the dynamic warm up after a long bout of stretching of where we just slowly building in? Because you wouldn't just do a quad stretch for 2 minutes and then go straight into like a max effort deadlift. You're going to be building up. So could that be classed as a dynamic warm up? What's going to reverse the 2 minute quad stretch before? Same with dancing. You might do 10 minutes stretching, and then you're probably just going to, I don't know what you guys do, but, prance around a little bit and then go into heavier sort of one-arm bloody windmills and stuff like that. So again, is there a sort of dynamic warm-up period of where you're sort of taking yourself from the stretching and just building that intensity?
Yeah.
Was that, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I don't think we are going to be really sort of worried on that. I guess, if you're a sort of weightlifter, you're just about to go out and do a sort of, clean and jerk, it's probably not wise to maybe stretch your quads or whatever for like 5 minutes before. Okay, because I think that's what we're sort of measuring, that immediate effect. But that's it.
Yeah, that's pretty simple.
Yeah.
But if we would have to give a recommendation for people, should they care at all about stretching before or after?
Look, I think it's very sport specific, right? So
and also goal specific, right?
Yeah,
Do you want to get more flexible?
Yeah, exactly.
I guess if you want to get more flexible, you should probably separate the flexibility training completely outside of your training, would you say? Or
I think, again, it comes down to very personal preference. I like to do mine at the end, and I will dedicate a fair bit of time to it. I enjoy doing it, and I'm just seeing where I can sort of take it. I do think it is very sort of sport dependent, or when it is very sport dependent. We know we need certain levels of flexibility for different sports, and that's going to help in terms of performance.
Yeah.
Right. So for example, if you really sort of suck at, doing an overhead squat, then guess what? Your performance is going to be pretty damn shit if you try and do a squat snatch or enter a meet compared to the people who can do it very effectively. Now, if you stretch, increase your flexibility alongside your weightlifting, and then you're going to be, your performance is going to increase.
I'm just my sports science mind just switched on, and I just started thinking about what adaptation actually happens in terms of flexibility, because then you have to start thinking, because obviously you shouldn't be training, you shouldn't be having endurance training and strength training or hypertrophy training and the same training, really, if you want to get better at each of these, right? Like you can't really be running 10 miles and then go lifting, because you pretty much blunting both adaptations because it works in different pathways. So like I wonder where the flexibility training comes in, because I definitely don't remember which pathway is it on.
I didn't do any sort of exercise, sports-based stuff. But I would say, does one pathway inhibit the other one? Or are they just two different pathways?
Two different pathways. So if you do a lot of endurance training, you're looking at AMPK pathway, which is, if we go down like a deep exercise physiology, biochemistry, so you activate an AMPK, which is then responsible for adaptation after exercise, which is very endurance-based. Whereas if you do strength/hypertrophy, you activating mTOR pathway.
I think you could do both.
Well, from my understanding, you can do both, but you're blunting the adaptation from each. So if you want to get better at both, you have to separate each training. And I think I would be probably lying with this timing-wise, but you at least want to have like 2 to 3 hour delay in the training. So you would do like aerobic endurance exercise first and then strength training later on. And that way you get best of both worlds. But if you mix it together,
I think we can only look at the CrossFit athletes of that and just base things on there, because some of them are like phenomenal runners for their size and strength. and many of them will sort of separate the two. Obviously, you'll have the sort of metcons, but they will do predominantly all this sort of hypertrophy and the strength work, and then they'll probably be down doing track sessions and swimming and long cycles. So they really will sort of probably split it into two. So I think we can do two, and I think we split it up. Yeah. I
mean, that's also why you see the difference in endurance versus strength athletes in terms of muscle mass.
Yeah.
Because the mTOR is heavily influenced in muscle protein synthesis. So, whereas the AMPK is more like aerobic adaptation.
I really don't know anything about that, if I'm being honest with you.
Fair enough. Well, that's my knowledge there. But yeah, that's why I was thinking where the flexibility and whether it's better to separate it based on what pathways involved. But to be honest, I don't think there is probably, if I would have to think about a mechanism behind it, there is definitely not any hypertrophic mechanism. So I wouldn't see it as mTOR pathway purely because the intensity and load which is involved. But I might be wrong. To be fair, no.
Oh, you got double spin stretching.
Yeah, it can get very intense actually.
Yeah, I think there's a few different theories on in terms of how your range of motion is increased and how your flexibility is increased. I think one is in terms of it's governed by the nervous system. You imagine a dog on a lead. You have them leads where you can sort of push the button and it sort of locks the lead, so the dog can't run off any further. So kind of see your nervous system has got hold of a lead. When your range of motion is, or flexibility is how far that dog can sort of run away. Now there'll be a certain limit to your range of motion, and that's governed by on the lead, where it's like I can't let you go any further because we haven't had too much familiarity in this position. Now, if you spend more time in these positions, the nervous system will become more familiar with that, and then is granted more. But then we also, we have these sort of structural changes in terms of muscular architecture, muscle tendons, which changes over time, changes stiffness, etc., etc. I think most of it is sort of on a sort of nervous system basis. I think that's the sort of dominating theme, but I also think there is sort of muscle tenderness sort of changes and changes in the sort of properties of them as well, which goes through that.
Yeah.
So
I got too deep on that.
Yeah. But in terms of what MTP or whatever you were saying, I haven't got a clue. I don't know. I don't know. But I think we do, stretching before or after, whatever you want to do. I don't think it's super important, but if you've got a sort of specific goal in mind, or activity in mind, or you want to improve something, stretching is a good way of doing that. And, we don't just have to do a static hold for that. You can do sort of weighted assisted sort of stretching. You can do dynamic stretching, passive stretching. There's a few different ways you can sort of stretch. So just
that's probably for another episode on its own as well.
So just understanding which ones you can or which ones you want to do to achieve a certain goal, is important as well. But I'm a big fan of stretching. I think it is good.
Yeah, I think overall, would you say that being flexible definitely helps with most of the pains and issues that people have?
Yeah, I think it becomes especially if someone's had an injury and we lose sort of range of motion. Definitely stretching is a good way where we can sort of increase the range of motion because it's sort of low load on the joints and the musculature, tendons, but it's probably not going to cause too much pain or sensitivity. If we was to go in and just start loading it back up, it might be too much too soon. So it's a nice sort of gateway, and we want to increase that range of motion after an injury anyway. I think it's a great tool to use in sort of rehab. Again, I'd use it for certain people depending on how they're presenting. If you haven't got any sort of loss of range of motion, we've got pain, I'm probably not going to get them to stretch. I'm probably going to load things up a little bit. Okay, so it depends where we are on that scale. So I think it's a good tool in clinic and also outside of clinic. in terms of just training.
Yeah.
Hope that
Good.
makes sense.
I mean, simple thing is, I would say, we want to be strong and flexible, because this is what we're losing while we age.
So it's a case of like, you do lose it if you don't use it, right? So, and I think that is definitely true. So I don't think you've got to be able to do the splits until you're like, on your deathbed. But I think a good degree of flexibility is going to be beneficial for when we go old, and I think there's a big misconception that, we hit a certain age and then mobility will just sort of go down. We're not able to get into these positions. We lose muscle mass, and that's all just normal part of aging process. I mean, I don't think it couldn't be further from the truth. We should all be able to, have the ability to sit in a squat, just bend down, and easily just be mobile. Easily to be mobile in and around your home and your life and the environment wherever you're taking it. And I think a big misconception is that we lose that and we can't do nothing about it.
Definitely. I think that covers everything, right?
Yeah. If you're happy.
I'm happy.
Yeah, I'm happy.
Good.